Packet Tracer Activity 2.5.5 Configure Initial Switch Settings. We'll begin by going into Switch 1 and entering our privilege mode. So instead of using a console line from PC1, we'll just go ahead and open Switch 1, and we're going to go to the command line interface that's shown here. The command line interface that's shown off of Switch 1 is a packet tracer only tool. You cannot just click or connect to a switch via some method other than a console line or a network connection from another PC in order to get to this command line. So here we'll go ahead and I'll press the enter key and I'll type the command to get us into the privilege mode. Go ahead and do that yourself, and then I'll do it here. It's the enable command. Alright, so once we're here, we're going to go ahead and look at some configuration options that have already been set up. So at this prompt, we're going to use a show command. So we're going to show some information, and here we're going to show something called the configuration file. There are several different configuration files, but the one we want to show is the one that is running currently. So we'll type running -config and press enter. The reason this is called the running config is it's the configuration that's held in the memory on the switch. If the switch gets turned off, this information is lost. So as we look through this configuration, we can move through it, and we can see informations such as host name. So this switch has a name switch. Not very helpful. This is something typically in an organization you'd want to change. You can then move through this by pressing the space bar. You'll notice there's a lot of things called interfaces. The interface are the jacks on the switch that allows you to connect networking cable to them. These are fast Ethernet interfaces. Fast Ethernet is a term that indicates that these ports or interfaces allow up to 100 megabits per second network speeds. So go ahead and press the space bar again. And then there is some more information here at the bottom. It's not important at this moment. And as we continue through, we'll get back to the prompt. Next, we're going to go ahead and give the switch a name. So to give or change the running configuration, we're going to have to get into the configuration mode. Can you remember what that mode is or how you get to there? So I'm going to type config here, terminal. You can use the shortened version if you wish. And then at the prompt, I'm going to type host name. If you go back up this list, you'll notice that I had talked about that. Oftentimes, when you're looking through the running config, the first portion here is the command that you type, and the next portion will be, or the last portion will be, the information that you're giving the command. So come back here, we're going to go ahead and give this the name S1 for switch 1. Press enter, and then we'll exit. So once we exit here, I want you to notice something that had happened. Notice that it now says S1 here. If I go back up the list a ways, if we can get back to the prompt again, notice that it says switch. So we've changed the command prompt, or excuse me, the prompt here in the terminal to indicate what the name of the switch is. This is very important if you're working with multiple switches at once. Next, we're going to work with the console line. That's what we had done in our first packet tracer activity. We connected the PC to the switch using a console line. Because being able to connect to this is very easy and straightforward for any individual. Typically on switches, we're going to put some sort of a security on these to keep people from logging into them unless they have a password. So let's go ahead and at the configuration command, or actually we have exited out of that. Let's get back into the configuration level, and we're going to go ahead and change that password. So the first thing we have to do is we're going to type the word line. Line indicates connections to our switch that are not network typical connections. So in this case, the line is going to be the console line. Actually, let me back up a moment here. I'm going to type line and then a question mark to show you the different types of connections we have. So the lines run from 0 through 16. Console is a type of line, and VTY is another type of line. So let me go back here to line console, and I have to tell it which console line. In this case, it's 0 because we only have one console line, and the numbers start from 0. Next, we're going to enter password, because we're going to be putting a password on this. I'll press the question mark so that you can see that there are some options here. One is a hidden password, which we're not going to be talking about at this time. And the next it says line, which means it's a password. So in this case, we'll type let me in, and I'll press the enter key. So now the console line actually has a password on it. So the last piece we have to do is I have to tell it to use the password. To use the password, I have to type a command called login. So at this point, we have set up the console line 0 to have a password when you log in. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of our configuration mode. One thing I'll go back here, I want you to notice that up here it said config. When I went to the line console 0, it changed our command prompt. This indicated that we're at a sub-level of the configuration mode, in the line mode. So when I exited here, it exited back to the configuration mode. I'm going to exit again to get back to the privileged mode. I'm going to go ahead and show running config again. And we'll move through this until we get to the bottom here. And notice here that line con, this stands for console 0, now has a password, and it is used for us to log in. Next, we're going to verify that this works. So let's go ahead and I'm going to get back to the command prompt. Let's go ahead and type exit again. And notice that this says console 1 is available. What this is meaning is we have exited back to the point where it's going to act like we're logging back into the router through a console line. And that's what coming through the command line interface on the switch is simulating. So I'll go ahead and press the enter key. Now it's asking for the password. So I'll type in the password. And there we're back at the command prompt. So we have a password on the console line. Next we're going to go ahead and we're going to put a password on our privileged mode. So we're going to go back to the enable mode. So type enable at the prompt. We'll go back to the configuration level. And here we're going to do a password. So we're going to type the word enable, the word password, and then the password we're going to use. I'm going to use Cisco here for my password and then press exit. If I go back to our show running config, if we move down the list, we're going to see that we've set a password here, and the name is Cisco. Notice that this is in plain text. Because this poses a security risk, we're going to next encrypt the passwords so that people who do not or should not have access to this cannot view this information if they somehow get to this point. So let's go back to the configure terminal level. So we'll do here configure terminal. And then we're going to go enable. But we're going to add an additional thing here. Instead of the word password, we're just going to put the word secret. And then I'm just going to use the word Cisco again. Okay, notice here it says you've chosen the same name, and I should make this different, but because I have a hard time remembering passwords that I've typed, I try to keep them simple for these labs. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave that as is, and we'll exit out of this. One thing to remember here is that if you have a secret password or an encrypted password, as well as an enabled password, the secret password overrides the enabled password. Let's go ahead and look at our running config again. And at the top of this, we should see now it says enable secret. Notice that now that password is encrypted. Now, we still have this unencrypted password here that is a part of this, but remember that this will be used instead of this, so having this password would not help anyone. We can encrypt all passwords on our device by using a different command. We're going to have to get back to the configure terminal command. And here we're going to type a command called service password -n encryption. And this will ensure that all passwords are encrypted. So we'll go back to the show running config. And now notice that these passwords are enabled, and we can go to the bottom and also notice that our console line is enabled as well. Moving forward, we're going to turn on a banner. A banner is some information that will appear when people log into the system. First one we're going to configure is called a message of the day banner. It's fairly easy to do this. Let's go ahead and go back to our configure terminal area, and we're going to type the word banner, MOTD, and then you're going to have to use a delimiter in order to identify where your text begins and where it ends. So a delimiter can be any character, but it cannot be a character that is going to be a part of the message you're displaying. In this case, I'm going to use the quote command, and I'm going to type a message. So this is a secure system, and then ending delimiter, and press enter. So when will this banner be displayed? That's an interesting question. So let's go ahead and see if we can locate it. So I'm going to press exit. Press exit again, and this is kind of starting over at the beginning, logging into the switch. So I'll press return. Aha, there it is. Oops, I typed it wrong. This is a secure system. Let me type the password in here. And we'll be back into the switch. The final thing we're going to do in this activity is saving our configuration to non-volatile RAM. This is kind of important. We don't want our information to be lost if we spent a significant amount of time configuring the switch. So we need to get to an elevated command prompt, so we'll do that. And then we're going to use a command called copy. Pretty straightforward, and we're going to do running config, and then we're going to save it to a file called startup-config, and it says, is this really the command name I want? Yep. So I'll say OK. What this does is it's going to save this to a special file name. This file name will be used when the system is turned on for the first time. Okay, the next part of this activity asks you to configure switch 2. I'm going to go ahead and let you do that on your own. The information you need, if you can't remember it, is located in the exercises in the previous sections that we've completed. So this ends this video.